Bannon now sits accused of fraud and personally profiting to the tune of hundreds of thousands of dollars from what was supposed to be a border wall security nonprofit. Let's get to the latest on this and welcome in Pennsylvania Congressman Guy Reschenthaler. Congressman Reschenthaler is a member of both the House Judiciary and Foreign Affairs Committee. Congressman, thanks for joining us. We are going to talk about President Trump's trip to Pennsylvania today and what we saw at the DNC last night. But based on what we heard just a few moments ago from President Trump, he, put some distance between himself and this organization, talking about how he didn't like that a private organization was trying to do the government's work here. But we're going to really see the true colors of Steve Bannon, because based on what he did after he left the White House, certainly there was no love lost between the two.
Well, John, first off, thanks for having me on. Always enjoy it. As far as it comes to Steve Bannon, let's just see what comes out in terms of the facts. This story just broke. Let's wait for the facts to come in. I'm always a little skeptical when there's high-profile political arrests and indictments, just because of past history with these kind of things, criminalizing politics, if you will. But with that said, let's wait for the facts to come in and see what really went on.
Yeah, the indictment is out now. It's been released by the Southern District of New York. Everyone can read it for themselves. And then, of course, we will wait to see what happens with due process, something we still believe in here on this program. All right, Guy, let's talk about what happened at the DNC last night. Here was President Obama and his rebuke of his successor.
They believe that no one, including the president, is above the law, and that no public official, including the president, should use their office to enrich themselves or their supporters. The commander-in-chief does not use the men and women of our military as political props to deploy against peaceful protesters on our own soil. Political opponents aren't un-American just because they disagree with you. A free press isn't the enemy. None of this should be controversial. These shouldn't be Republican principles or Democratic principles. They are American principles. But at this moment, this president and those who enable him have shown they don't believe in these things.
Obviously, quite a run-up there from President Obama. And he chose, of course, Guy, to talk about President Trump before he talked about Vice President Biden, and all the Democrats have basically. But one of the things that was striking about this was perhaps President Obama's unintentional, ironic use of the Constitution.
Exactly right. Well, you notice that former President Obama was not talking about his scandals, Fast and Furious, weaponizing the IRS to go after conservatives, giving Iran $1.5 billion, which they then spread that money around the Middle East to destabilize the region, funding terrorist organizations. He didn't mention the fact that he weaponized the FBI to spy on the Trump campaign and also to destabilize the transition of power between his administration and President Trump's administration. He didn't say any of that. He also didn't really talk too much about any platform agendas. And John, there's a really good reason for that. The Democrats now know that their true agenda, their real platform, is not popular with the average American. For example, giving free health care to illegal immigrants does not play well. Banning fracking will hurt the Democrats greatly, especially in states like Pennsylvania. Yep. The Green New Deal and those provisions, far too radical for the average American. So instead of talking about their true platform, their true agenda, they would rather just attack President Trump. That's what you're seeing. And I think it's also important to note, John, that you see a lot of Democrats on that stage not even talking about Joe Biden. AOC, for example, had 60 seconds, and not once did she mention Joe Biden. And the reason for it is simple. They know that Joe Biden at this point is irrelevant. He's an empty suit. He's a vessel for that far left wing of the party to come in and really accomplish their far left agenda.
The other thing, too, I think we really saw last night, we see this as a theme. I don't know if it's intentional or not, Congressman, but, the difference, the stark contrast between the way Democrats view our federal government and the way Republicans do. They don't hold each other accountable. They expect the federal government to be the rescuer of all of these states. That's what they're doing by blaming President Trump, and they're showing themselves. And, they don't hold the mayors of these cities accountable. They don't hold the district attorneys accountable because that's not politically expedient for them to do so. And they forget that the federal government is supposed to be the last resort when it comes to solving these problems, and it's really incumbent upon the locals to solve these problems.
Well, yes, and it puts them in a bad position when they have to talk about the fact that these liberal mayors and these liberal governors, the liberal city councils of places like Seattle, Portland, Chicago, it hurts them when they have to talk about their failures because they're all liberal. Right. So if they can attack President Trump, it diverts from going on. But be clear about something. The choice with this election is very, very clear. The Democrats want to dismantle. They want to defund. Frankly, they want to destroy our way of life. You have President Trump and the Republicans who want to restore, rebuild, renew America. You're going to have President Trump, someone who has held China accountable. Notice the Democrats have said zero about China during this convention.
Yeah, during this convention, they've said plenty. Joe Biden and Democrats have said plenty about China, but they don't want to talk about now. We're going to get to that later in the program, but let's go ahead and focus in on President Trump's trip to Scranton, Pennsylvania today. Vice President Biden's old hometown here, but you're a Pennsylvanian as well. And let's talk about this battleground state, because right now, according to the Real Clear Politics, I guess this is a YouGov CBS News poll, Vice President Biden is leading President Trump in Pennsylvania right now, but we know not everyone's getting counted in these polls. So what is President Trump going to say today to counter Biden's message?
There's two big messages that are going to work for President Trump in Pennsylvania. First and foremost is natural gas. The natural gas industry is huge in Pennsylvania, especially in places like my district in the Northeast where President Trump is speaking today. But if you were to allow Joe Biden to enact the Green New Deal, and remember, he put AOC on his Green Initiative energy platform, so it shows you where he's moving. If you were to allow Biden and Kamala Harris to ban fracking, you would cost the average Pennsylvanian over 600,000 jobs lost, and also the average Pennsylvanian saves about, at least the average PA family saves $1,200 on their energy bills every year because of natural gas. You take that away from them, and they have to pay more for the energy. So that's a losing message, both in terms of jobs and just economics around the kitchen table in Pennsylvania. Yeah. Additionally, Pennsylvania is a very rule and order state. So the more that President Trump can convey that he is the candidate who stands for law and order and safety, as opposed to the Democrats and the chaos you're seeing in Seattle, Portland, and Chicago, that's going to be a winning message. These polls are going to narrow, John. President Trump is doing just around where he was when he was running against Hillary Clinton. And I think that Pennsylvania might be Joe Biden's home state, but it's going to be home to 20 electoral votes for President Trump once again.
Yeah, it's a battleground state for sure. We'll see what comes of it. Great to see you, Congressman Reschenthaler. Thank you so much.
Thanks, John. Take care.